Baker Mayfield. He reminds me of a shorter version of Brett Favre. He can throw it. He's very confident. He's not afraid whatsoever.
Another guy that isn't getting nearly as much attention as I believe he should be is Florida International receiver T.Y. Hilton. 6 returns over his career, combining kick and punt returns for touchdowns.
He has the mindset, and he has the intelligence, and he understands the offense to a T. Kirk's our quarterback. We could have done a deal right then and got it for long term and been a slam dunk.
Sam is a good football player. The problem is he's not a great football player, and we're bringing so much attention to a guy that, frankly, is a day 3 prospect.
And now, the Instinctive Scouting Podcast, featuring 2-time NFL General Manager Scot McCloughan and NFLDraftScout.com Senior Analyst Rob Rang.
Hi, and welcome to the Instinctive Scouting Podcast, starring 2-time NFL General Manager Scot McCloughan and myself, Rob Rang, Senior Analyst for NFLDraftScout.com. Scott, we have a lot of college football to talk about tonight. We'll look back at the conference title games, the playoffs, and the rest of the bowl games being announced, and the Heisman Trophy presentation Saturday night. So let's start off right there with the Heisman Trophy presentation. Of course, we have our 3 finalists, all 3 quarterbacks. Oklahoma's Kyler Murray, Ohio State's Dwayne Haskins, and Alabama's Tua Tagovailoa. Just quickly, your thoughts, Scott, on as far as who do you think most deserves to win the Heisman Trophy this year?
You know what? They all 3 have had excellent years. The thing that's so respectful about them is the fact that they all have talent. That's why they are where they are and they're doing what they're doing. It's not so much completion percentage. It's not so much touchdowns, interception ratio, whatever. It's wins and losses.
Yeah.
And they proved it out. You know, one's, a 9th pick in the draft in baseball, that goes out there every Saturday and doesn't, worry about his future from the standpoint of playing baseball if he gets hurt. Tua, of course, last year in the national championship game came out of nowhere. Put up great numbers. It's too bad he got hurt in the championship game this year and from the standpoint of the SEC. But, in Haskins, he's had a great year. They're all winners, and that's so important from an evaluator standpoint because you want to see wins and losses. That's what matters when the day's said and done. But all 3 are in it. Who's going to win it? Personally, I think Tua will get it. But I could see Murray being really, really close to that. Haskins, I think, is a little further back just because, he's not as dynamic as the other 2. The other 2 are very good, not just from the standpoint of of throwing the ball, but of making plays with their legs.
Yeah, exactly. My dogs are so excited about the Heisman Trophy candidacy as well. I mean, but ultimately, I agree with you, Scott. I think that it's I think it really comes down to 2 things. I think it comes down to wins, and I guess I would say 3 things. Wins, I think it comes down to how many people have seen you, and then I think it comes down to that dynamic ability, that ability to have that Heisman Trophy type of moment. And, that's the thing is that in all 3 players, as you mentioned, all 3 players had plenty of wins. You have 2 of the players, of course, in Tua and in Kyler Murray. They're going to be competing for a national championship. And Dwayne Haskins, he's got a big-time bowl game as well, obviously going up against University of Washington, the Rose Bowl. So their success at Ohio State speaks for itself as well. To me, what it comes down to is the fact that Alabama was so dominant for so long. And Tua, as you mentioned, the SEC title game, by his getting hurt, I really thought that might kind of ruin his chances. But, of course, the fact that Jalen Hurts came in kind of saved the day for Alabama. And, of course, the rest of Alabama played so well to kind of steal that win from Georgia in the SEC championship. I think that people are going to be a little bit more willing to overlook the fact that Tua got hurt because they fall in love with the Jalen Hurts resurrection story. And so I don't know that it's going to hurt Tua the way it might if Kyler Murray got hurt and the backup of Oklahoma saved the day, or if Dwayne Haskins got hurt and the backup of Ohio State saved the day. And so that's why I think that ultimately that I do think it's going to be close. I think that Tua kind of left it open a little bit by struggling before he was injured against Georgia. But I agree with you. I think that ultimately when it's all said and done, that Tua is going to be the one who actually lifts the hardware. Even though the Kyler Murray and Dwayne Haskins statistically in terms of just touchdowns, I think that you can make a strong argument for either one. To me, that's one of the things that's fascinating this year is I think we've seen so many Heisman Trophy races that I frankly didn't really care much about because I thought, okay, who's the top? Who's the quarterback who has the biggest numbers? And this year, I think it is more than just who has the highest completion percentage or who has the most passing touchdowns.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the thing about it is, and it's sad but true, a lot of the votes are already made before the championship games, conference championship games, and Tua, that's why I think Tua is going to win it, But, again, all three are very respected, and all three should be very excited the fact that they're even involved in it because that's a hell of an honor. And to be invited to New York City and to go through the process is excellent. But a lot of guys put their votes in for the championship game.
Well, and I absolutely agree with you. I think it really has been an issue in years past. Now, there's been some reports that there was only approximately 10% of the votes that actually have been cast before these conference championship games. And if that's true, then I think that we could see a surprise, because I think that clearly Kyler Murray and Dwayne Haskins had the better day in terms of statistics, just because of the fact that they played the entire time. But at the same time, I would be surprised if not 90% of those early voters didn't vote Tua's direction because, as we talked about, he was just so dominant. I mean, just, a single interception for virtually the entire college football season, and up until LSU, I believe, Tua didn't have a single interception. Didn't play in the fourth quarter, and so I mean that kind of statistical dominance speaks for itself. And oh, by the way, I think all three of them are legitimate NFL prospects. Now, it remains to be seen with Kyler Murray, of course, as you mentioned. He was number 9 overall pick in baseball, so he's got some decisions. But I think it is refreshing to see a bunch of players that be invited, the finalists, actually be legitimate NFL prospects. And then also, it's kind of cool that all three of them are basically first-year starters. And I think that's kind of fun too. Just that, we do have some turnover at that position. I think that always makes it more exciting for draft fans, for college football fans.
Yeah, and the thing about it is too, one game's one game. I hope the voters, which I'm sure a majority of them do, it's the sum of the parts. Yeah. It's the whole season. That's what makes you who you are. With Tua getting hurt, in the championship game, which was not good. Not national, but in the conference championship game. But you got to do all the work that got him there. Yeah. Why they're undefeated. Now I understand he's got a great defense, that helps him out a lot.
No doubt.
He's got good receivers. He's got a good running game, and same thing with Kyler. He's got a lot of talent around him. The defense isn't the same, of course, as Alabama's, but it's legit. It's good enough. I mean, that's why they are where they are. That's why they're in the Final Four now.
Yeah.
And with Hoskins too, there's talent, but they all. When you look over the whole picture of the whole year, and the numbers, like you said about Tua, what he put up, is incredible. Incredible. You get the best talent around you. You're still touching the ball every snap, and you're still making a play. And to do that, that's impressive.
No, exactly. And that's, to me, what does separate Tua a little bit more is that, let's face it, in just about every offense in major college football in the NFL anymore, there's going to be elements of the spread and things of that nature. But, I look at those offenses and I would, at least in my opinion, not counting the talent. I think talent, clearly clearly Alabama has the most talent in terms of NFL draft prospects, both the offensive and defensive side, at least in my opinion. But the types of throws that Tua is being asked to make against the speed and size of the SEC, to me, is what does make his success even more incredible than what Dwayne Haskins and Kyler Murray accomplished at Ohio State and Oklahoma, respectively. I mean, I just think that if you can put up those types of numbers against SEC competition in a fairly traditional pro-style offense, as you just said, Scott, I don't care who you're throwing the ball to. I mean, there's still the caliber of throws that I saw Tua make throughout the course of the season, just how accurate he was, how well he looked off the safety, things of that nature, things that the traditional Heisman Trophy voter probably doesn't pay attention to, but I, as an NFL draft, scout, I very much am focusing on. And so I think this is one of the few years where if I don't have a Heisman Trophy ballot, but if I had one, that my vote would go to Tua, and partially because I think he's a legitimate NFL prospect.
Well, and you nailed it on the head by saying SEC, because he's going up against NFL players on the other side of the ball.
Yep.
Corners, safeties, linebackers. The numbers he put up this year were incredible. And I love Kyler Murray to death from the standpoint he's not a big guy whatsoever, but the guy reminds me of Russell Wilson, and that's a big statement. But he can make plays when things aren't there, And Tua can too. I think Haskins more not that style, but he's a bigger guy.
Yep.
But they all three deserve going to New York City. Like I said, they all three deserve to get credit for being good college football players.
No, they really do, and that's why I am very excited to see this, this Heisman Trophy ceremony. We've talked a lot about quarterbacks in prior episodes of the ISP, and we've talked a lot about just the intangibles. And and it's always fascinating to me when the winner is announced and he gets his opportunity on the microphone. I'm always fascinated to see, especially if they're a quarterback, how they handle that spotlight. And just, and I know that it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter if a player is articulate or looks comfortable on stage, but quarterback, I do think it's important. And so I'm fascinated to see whoever wins this award. I hope that they handle that stage and that spotlight well, because obviously, again, there's going to be past and present and future general managers who are going to be watching that, perhaps considering using a very early pick on one of these young quarterbacks.
I agree. And the thing about it, I think all three will handle it perfect. Yeah. All three will be perfect.
I do too. I'm excited to see. Well, besides just the handing out the hardware and all that fun stuff that ties in with college football, we actually have a few games to be played still. And so I want to kind of look ahead to some of the big bowls, the college football playoff games specifically, because we have time over the next couple of weeks to kind of break down some of the other bowls. But before we break them down, I want to kind of review some of the quick conference championships. Now, there was the Big Five, conference championships, and I was going to kind of spit them out real quick, Scott, and then if there's a certain game of them that you were particularly interested in, then I was going to have you kind of just jump out. But, of course, we had the ACC. Clemson beat Boston College 42-10. We had the Big Ten, where Ohio State, Dwayne Haskins had his big game, 45-24 over Northwestern. The Big 12, where Kyler Murray had his big day, Oklahoma defeated the rival Texas 39-27. The Pac-12, where University of Washington beat Utah 10-3. And, of course, the mighty SEC, where Alabama, reigning champions, beat Georgia in a rematch of that national championship game, a rematch, the national championship game, 35-28. And then I just have to give a little bit of credit to the only team that is undefeated last year and this year. Central Florida came back with a stirring second-half comeback to beat Memphis 56-41 in the American Athletic Conference championship game. And then, just because for things that we talked off the air about, Fresno State winning their Mountain West Conference championship, 19-16 over Boise State in the snow. that was a big time game for the Fresno State Bulldogs as well. So any of